Hello, Booktube. This is LitMas, day 5. My favorite haiku. This is a project created by Adrian at Strip Cover Lit. I'll link his channel below and the prompts for each day. This one is a challenging one, just like with the flash fiction, which I didn't have much experience with. Haiku, I have no experience with. But I do read a lot of poetry, or a moderate amount of poetry, and I do enjoy poetry. So gets me out of my comfort zone a little bit, which is always a good thing. And so what I did is I went and I searched through my poetry books and tried to see what people are doing with the form, and what is the form all about, and why is it important. And I came to this book. It's called An Exaltation of Forms. Contemporary Poets Celebrate the Diversity of Their Art, edited by Annie Finch and Catherine Varnes. And I've used this book for other things. I've just never used it for the haiku. This is Ann Arbor, the University of Michigan Press, and it came out in 2000. Well, it says 2002, 3, 4, and 5. I'm not quite sure how they do. Its original copyright's 2002. You can see how it's done there. So, excuse me. So, haiku. So, there's a chapter that begins on page 217. And it's Jean Hyung Yul Chu. I hope I'm pronouncing that at least close. Does an article. And haiku, like all good verse, is a way of seeing, a sort of frame or threshold. What marks the form in particular is the sheer sense of economy. Matsuo Basho, 1644 to 1694, the founder of haiku, transformed the verse into the forceful lyric we recognize today during the last decade of his life while traveling through Japan, and fusing the haiku form with the spareness required by his itinerant life. So he's wandering around, and he's a wandering poet, and so we know now it's a spare form, and that it has a form, a shape that it takes. So the article follows on that Yosa Busan, 1716 to 1783, so another early poet, noted that haiku uses the commonplace to escape the commonplace. And also that seasonal references are important, a reference ground for the writers. Now, haiku comes out of the Buddhist tradition, and their cosmology, their way of seeing the world, is different. I am from a New England Protestant tradition, so Western tradition. So the way that my ancestors would have seen nature would have been different than these Japanese poets would have seen nature. Wherein the Western tradition, nature is seen as fallen. So the author in this book, and that's not true in the Buddhist tradition, it's not the same cosmology. So the author of this book, very handily, or helpful for me, compares a Robert Frost poem to one by Yosa Busan, who we just read about. So here's the Robert Frost. Now, remember that we're seeing nature as fallen in the Western tradition. So this is Robert Frost, Nothing Gold Can Stay. Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf. So Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down today, nothing gold can stay. So you have that, the fall of Eden, the fall of nature. And compare that to what Yosa Busan's haiku, translated by Robert Haas, how it sees nature. The petals fall, and the river takes them, plum tree on the bank. So there's no sense of fallen nature, it seems to me. It seems like the timeless cycle of nature. So a somewhat different philosophy, two very different poems. So that gives me a bit of an entry into maybe reading some of these poems, haiku. And this was a very wonderful exercise. So thank you, Adrian, and thank you, Booktube.